السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونتوب إليه ونعوذ به من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له، ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، ونشهد أن سيدنا محمدا صلى الله عليه وسلم عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. وبعد. All true praise belongs to Allah, Lord, Creator and Sustainer of the worlds. We praise Allah Ta'ala in the most excellent way when we say Alhamdulillah. And we thank Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for all of the blessings that He gives us, that He sends to us, that He surrounds us with. We thank Allah Ta'ala for the blessings that we know about. We thank Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala for the blessings that we overlook, because Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has surrounded us with blessings. And one of the characteristics of the believer is that he or she is a grateful person, a grateful individual. The believer walks on this earth with a spirit of shukr, of gratitude. And this spirit is something that we can cultivate. We can develop it. And the way that we develop it is by paying attention to our surroundings. And one of the challenges in our society, with the challenge of having access, we have access to excess. So we have access. And what I mean by having access is that in many other places in the world, when people want some basic items, basic staples, right, they have to negotiate a lot of stuff to have access to things that if we are living a relatively normal, typical American life, right? And that includes many of us in this room, right? We have a different type of access. So, you know, I tell the bread story about how if I want to buy a loaf of bread, there's a way that people in other parts of the world negotiate that. Even in other parts of the country. Even in other parts of the city, this city. So the people who have struggled with access, right, they are in a different space. But those of us who don't struggle with access, meaning that I can go to the market, to the supermarket, and I can walk down what's called the bread aisle. And in the bread aisle, I have choices. And so I spend some time in the bread aisle looking over my choices because I have rye, and I have sourdough, and I have plain white, and I have whole wheat, and I have 12 grain, and I have honey grain, and I have all of these choices. Bagels, muffins, English muffins. I have all of these choices, so I'm in there thinking, which one am I going to get? Well, beloved brothers and sisters, this is a blessing of access. Because you get to do that. Whereas your fellow human being, brother and sister in humanity, Muslim or not, some people don't have that access. Some people, all they want is a loaf of bread so they can eat for the day. Now, if you don't have, or if you have the blessing of access, you must be grateful to Allah. Because it's not your birthright. Allah don't have to do that for you or me. And Allah is the one that's giving you access. And then, if you have the blessing of excess, meaning you have access to a lot more than you need. So again, go back to the bread aisle. In order to fulfill your body's nutritional needs, you just need some carbs, and the bread provides that. Everything else is variety. Everything else is variety. Alhamdulillah for that. Because I'm not knocking the variety. I'm calling your attention to the need to be grateful that you have access to variety. And that the least that we can do is say Alhamdulillah. That's the least that we can do. Forget the fact that the more that we have, the more that we are responsible for. If I have plenty, That means I become more responsible for making sure that my neighbor, my fellow human being, the person who doesn't have as much, I have a responsibility to try to give them something. This is the true sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The true sunnah. How many times have you heard me or Imam Anas stand from this minbar and tell you that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would not go to sleep unless he was sure that his immediate neighbors were okay? Not that he went and gave them da'wah, Jehovah's Witness style. I got a visit this week. I had to tell the lady, listen, I believe in God, lady. Is that enough? She's like, yes, baby, that's enough. Have a good day, because I didn't want to get into the back and forth, right? But the Prophet ﷺ didn't go knocking on the door, giving da'wah, because his da'wah was his behavior, which led him to go and knock on the door and ask a different question. Or to make a different offer. I heard that you all were going through trying times. Here's some food. Because he understood that a part of taqwa, a part of walking with this spirit of consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, was being sensitive to the needs of other people. You gotta care that people are suffering. That's a part of what softens the heart. You have to care, even if you can't do anything about it. You have to care. We all know that that's a struggle. I'm not telling you something that you don't know about. In this environment, we got to negotiate that. Part of what we have to negotiate, of course, is the reality of the environment. Not everybody who says they have a need has a need. We get that. Sometimes it's dangerous to go to every situation and, try to offer help to alleviate a need. Why? Because you got to be careful out there with people. People do all kinds of stuff. They concoct all kinds of stories. They play all kinds of games. But you know what? At the end of the day, that should not impact what you do more than what Allah says you must do. So we negotiate this stuff. But it doesn't absolve us of the basic responsibility of alleviating or making a contribution to the alleviation of the suffering of others. Because that is deen. This is why you read not just about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but all of the prophets. A part of their miracles was the alleviation of the suffering of others. What was the story of Sayyidina Isa about? Alayhi salam. A big part of the story of Jesus was that he could touch and heal the leper. He had a healing touch. A different type of suffering, but suffering nonetheless. All of the prophets, alayhimus salam, this was a fundamental part of their character. And this is why it's a fundamental part of the believer's character. That means that we have a spiritual obligation to combat the ego-based greed, selfishness. We got to fight this stuff. That's why being Muslim is not just about hitting your head on the floor. And wallahi, the elders who spoke to me in concretized terms. When they would say things like anybody could bang their head on the floor, they weren't diminishing salah. They were saying that you could be in a state where you're just mimicking the movements of prayer. You don't even know what you're doing. You might not even know what you're saying. Because when you stand in the position of salah, that is the position of ultimate surrender. You are standing before Allah and recognizing, your body is recognizing, your body is testifying that you are standing before its creator. And when you put your head on the floor, what did the Prophet ﷺ say about that? أَقْرَبُ مَا يَكُونُ الْعَبْدُ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِ حِينَ يَسْجُدُ أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. That the closest that a person is to their Lord in terms of positionality, even though Allah doesn't have a position, but the closest space for you, the most intimate space, is for you to be in sujood. Bend your back, bow your head to the one who is worthy of bending and bowing. But if you don't approach salah, you just come to the mosque, which can happen. And I'm not looking down on anybody because it can happen to me. You're just showing up, you're getting a line, you're doing stuff. What are you praying for? What are you asking for? Are you sincere when you're asking? Because you know who you're asking. That's why I said, do you know what you're saying? Do you know what you're saying when you say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen? And if you don't, it's easy to find out. It's easy to pick up a translation and read, all praise belongs to Allah, Lord of the worlds. But are you reflecting on the fact that you say that every time you make salah? Why? Because all true praise belongs to Allah, Lord of the worlds. Even the praise that people give you, even the praise that we give ourselves, that's not true praise. I can look in the mirror, oh man, yeah man, alhamdulillah, mashallah, look at me. Look at me. But that's not true praise. Number one, because if look at me and inside of me is rotten and corrupt, then guess what Allah's going to judge? Because Allah knows the outward and the inward. Which is one of the reasons why we say Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Beloved brothers and sisters, I was reading an article earlier in the week, and the title of the article was What to Do, How to Prepare, or How to Survive in a Time of Social Panic. And the article caught my attention because, people are wrestling with a question. And it's a legitimate question. If you look around you, if you're paying attention, we are living in a time when what was is not anymore. We have multiple definitions for what is true, what the truth is. There used to be a time when there was the truth and then there were lies. You couldn't have multiple truths. And certainly, I couldn't have my own truth. Because somewhere in life, that would fail me. Because it doesn't line up with reality. So for example, the laws of gravity, speed, velocity say that I should practice a degree of safety when I'm about to cross the street. Why? Because a car moves faster than a human being. And so the scientific truth is that if I practice less safety, I'm increasing the risk of getting injured or killed by a moving car, an object that moves faster than me. So I accept the scientific truth. But what if I have my own truth that said, you know, I'll just cross the street and let chips fall where they may? I could do that. I got a brain. I can make a choice. But is it intelligent? Is it right? Well, if you ascribe to the belief that everybody has a truth, then guess what? You might deceive yourself into believing that you can walk in the middle of the street, nothing will happen to you. And this is a form of self-deception. You can deceive yourself into believing things that aren't true because you believe they're true. We live in a time when, you know, everything is up in the air. There's turmoil. There's wars all over the place. There's crimes that are being committed, and we don't know why it's happening. There's racism, poverty, xenophobia. A long list. And people are panicking, and rightfully so. Rightfully so. We live in a time when I could decide to wake up in the morning and say and declare that as of this morning, I feel like I'm a woman, so I'm a woman. And if I want to go to the woman's bathroom, the women should open up a space for me, visibly a man. Because you don't even have to do any work. It's just a feeling now. And I can go in the bathroom with the women. I'm supposed to be able to. What is that? I want you to understand the fundamental flaw in how human beings think as it relates to their reality. The fundamental flaw in how human beings think in relationship to their reality is based upon the fact that they either accept God or they reject God. So if they reject God, they are rejecting the truth. And if they accept God, they are accepting the truth. Because from the standpoint of how we look at this reality, Allah has already told us what it is, and we, the believers, have accepted that. That's what Islam is. Which is why you hear me preach against clothes Islam. Not to diminish the clothing, to belittle the people who choose to wear certain clothing. It's not that. But it's like the elders used to say. If the extent of your Islam is that you can put on a thobe, or you put on an overgarment, or you put on a face veil, or you put on a kufi or a turban, then you're just playing dress up. Woo. Long till you feel some kind of way. What you mean I'm playing dress up? Now I'm serious. I'm following the sunnah. No, you're following a part. A very small part of the sunnah. Because unless you are diligently addressing the darknesses of your soul, you're just scratching the tip of the iceberg. You're scratching the iceberg. You're doing like this. and you're in front of an iceberg. And you are fundamentally misinformed about what you're supposed to be doing. What do I mean by that? If you just read the one hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنْظُرُ إِلَى صُوَرِكُمْ وَلَا إِلَى أَجْسَامِكُمْ. So, if you want to reference this, you go get, if you have Gardens of the Righteous, Riyadh al-Salihin. I don't remember the number of the hadith, but if you look in the chapter of righteous action, you will find this hadith. And it is sahih. It is unanimously accepted that the Prophet ﷺ said that verily Allah will not look at you, your image, your form, your body type. There will be no determination, which means He won't look at your clothes. He won't look at your clothes. So if your intention was to dress a certain way, to imitate or to follow the Prophet ﷺ, then kudos to you. If your intention, because your intention could be to dress up so that people could say, wow, look at that brother. Man, he's wearing the sunnah. He's wearing it. Wow, look at that sister. She's so pious. She's so modest. The rest of the hadith says, وَلَكِنْ يَنْظُرُ إِلَىٰ قُلُوبِكُمْ وَأَعْمَالِكُم. But instead, Allah looks at your heart and your actions. This is what matters. What's in here and what you do. And what you do will give some information about what's in here. So if you look at what you do, this is called reflection. And you see, man, I got to work on some stuff. Because I'm saying I believe XYZ. However, I'm doing ABC. Well, you need to fix that. Because Allah Ta'ala is not only going to ask you about XYZ. Allah is not going to ask you about, I should say ABC. He's not going to ask you about only what you did. He's going to ask you about why you did it, because He knows. So imagine being in a situation with your Creator who already knows that if you lie, He knows you're lying. He knows you were lying when you did it, and if you're standing before Him, and this could be a wicked spiritual state, that you're standing before Allah lying, and Allah knows you're lying, and you have the opportunity, and you still lie. And Allah embarrasses you like that. Look at this guy. Look at this person here. Right? This is why we talk about humility so much. Because we have to know who we're dealing with. When I stand before Allah, alhamdulillah, these words will testify against me. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. I ain't worshiping no one or no thing. Now, how do I do that? Because it's one thing to say it in the prayer. It's another thing to live it. And I don't mean in some crazy way. Because oftentimes people who are misguided, they think they have to do these really big things. And history has proven, and even to this day, we have people who have committed egregious crimes against others, against humanity, in the name of God. Because they believe they are doing something with real sincerity that Allah didn't ask them to do. So when we check our intentions, when we understand, when we reflect, we come to one of the keys of surviving in a time of social panic. People are afraid, people are confused, people are angry, people are hurt, people are disappointed. And what I will say to us, believers, all of these are a part of our human condition, because no situation for us will be good enough, perfect enough. Why? The Prophet ﷺ said, according to Mu'adh ibn Jabal, he asked Mu'adh, do you know what the right of Allah is upon his slaves? Mu'adh said, Allah and his messenger know best. He said that you worship him and not associate anything with him. So the manifestation of Tawheed is not just the utterance of correct words, mastering the arguments, the theological arguments about Allah. Those are good things. If you know them, alhamdulillah. But then to live with the sense that your true devotion is only to Allah is a whole nother story. But this is the right that Allah demands from us. أَن يَعْبُدُوهُ وَلَا يُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. That we worship him and that we don't associate any partners with him. Anything, anyone, anything. Then he asked him, and do you know what the rights, what the people's rights on God is? Mu'adh said, Allah and his messenger know best. He said that he does not punish them, in quotation marks, providing that they worship him. He won't punish them. Which implies that if we don't worship Allah, if we get lost in the sauce of this dunya, Allah will punish us. Allah will punish us. It's not like we came into this world not knowing. We know. Why? Because your soul, you are a soul. And your soul is on a journey. And this dunya is simply a journey back to where you came from. So that means your life, your experiences, your ups, your downs, your trials, your tribulations, your successes, your victories are all a part of that journey. Which leads me, brothers and sisters, to some takeaway points. And I have 3. One is get your mind right. 2 is get your heart right. And 3, get your actions right. Get your mind right. Know where you are. You are in the dunya. One of the lies of shaitan is that I'm going to reach a space in this dunya where I won't have any problems. Do you know what the Prophet ﷺ said about the dunya? Shaitan will promise you that you'll get somewhere, you'll have enough money, you'll have the right man, the right woman, the right house, the right car, that right thing that will equal a space where you won't have any problems. And this is a promise of deception. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ. Do people believe that they can just simply say they believe and they won't be tested? The Prophet ﷺ said, الدنيا ملعونة مَلْعُونٌ مَنْ فِيهَا. That this dunya, in some ways, is accursed. And those who are in it are accursed. Not meaning that Allah is cursing people, but you will witness misery and suffering in this dunya. And the only thing that has meaning, the Prophet ﷺ said, is if we understand that we belong to Allah, we go back to Allah, if we learn, and if we teach. So the Prophet never told us lies about the dunya. So when you have a problem, we must learn to frame our problems as tests. Because when I say in the Fatiha, Ihdina Siratul Mustaqim, I'm asking Allah to show me the straight path. And then I feel like I'm on the straight path, and then I have a problem, and I lose my mind. Woo, you jumped off the straight path. You frame your problem as a test, because Allah promised that He's going to test us. So get your mind right. Get your mind right. Know where you are. You're in this dunya. This is not Jannah, and it never will be. This is not Jannah. I know what the commercials say. I know what the ads, that's all psychology. Did you believe that you're going to go somewhere and be in paradise? Well, no. That's imaging. Right? Get your heart right. Because what else would you be doing? Except preparing yourself for your meeting with Allah. Don't wait. Young brothers, don't wait till you're real old. Many people make that mistake. They wait. Oh, man, I got time. I got to get this money right now. That's a horrible mistake. Because many times you can pay with your life, and now you got to face Allah. And if you're of age, like you can't say, "Yo, Allah, I'm too young." No. Did someone tell you? Did you listen? Did someone tell you? Did you listen? You know why? Because listening is a choice. So did you listen, or did you go with, I'm going to do this because you don't understand, bro. I got to do this. Get your heart right. When we want to look at everybody else, other people, even the kuffar, you want to look at the kuffar, what they're doing. And look at the kuffar, look at the kuffar. Well, we need to also look at the Muslims. And then when we look at the Muslims, you look at the first Muslim, you. Because your reality is, good brother, good sister, when you go back to Allah, Allah's not going to ask you about the kuffar. He's not going to ask you about the Muslims. He's going to ask you about who? You. So get your heart right, get your actions right. Practice righteousness. Do good deeds. You don't have to talk about it, but you got to do it. You got to do good deeds every day. This is how you build up your scale. This is what matters. We all know the hadith of Sadaqah Jariyah, the perpetual charity, the charity that keeps on giving. Why does it keep on giving? Because it follows you in your grave. The reward of it. You can reap it, but you have to plant it where? You got to do it here. So do good deeds. These are the takeaways. This is the These are 3 tools that you put in your toolkit today for surviving the panic. It's not the only tools. I'm not saying that political engagement is not important. I'm not saying that economic development is not important. I'm being very clear about what I'm saying. See, because some people hear things, oh, all I got to do is pray. No, bro. No. This is why we have some of the problems that we have today. We're misunderstanding prayer. Prayer doesn't mean that you just sit down and you say, oh, Allah, 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 and then you get up, Allah took care of it for me. No, you have to take care of it because you have to do the work. And I'm definitely not saying that there's a guarantee that if you do all of the things that I say, or any imam, any sheikh, or if you read the whole, that you have an immunity from what Allah has promised us in this dunya. So prepare accordingly. And ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to increase your faith, increase your patience, and increase your understanding. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات من كل ذنب استغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد الطيب الطاهر الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. In closing, brothers and sisters, I wanted to read the announcements before we pray, just to focus on the du'as. We are asking for dua for the following people: Hanan Wajid, Sabrina Davis, Qareeb Abdul Hadi, Sayyid al-Mazuqi, Malik Abdullah, Sahar Abdullah, who's here with us today at Jumu'ah, Sister Sabria Abdul Ghaffar, who's here with us today, Sifu Hamid Abdul Rahman, who's still in rehab. I don't know if you know, but Sifu had a stroke last year sometime, and he's still in rehab, and he's far out in Horsham, I believe it is. And so we ask people to, if you get to go to visit him, we have the information. Please visit Sifu. He's contributed a lot to the community in terms of teaching people the martial arts. And certainly for QUBAInstitute, he taught kids in this school a very valuable martial art. And now he's struggling with his health, and so the least that we can do is make dua for him. So please make dua for Sifu. Brother Ali Brown, Brother Salim Nuruddin, who's here with us today, Sister Zakiya Nuruddin, Brother Ali Adams, and all of them are dealing with different conditions. May Allah Ta'ala restore them all back to health. And then I'm asking for a special dua for Siddiq Savage. I reported to you a few weeks ago that he was shot, one of the students here. The good news is that he's in the rehab facility. He's at McGee. The more challenging news is that he's struggling with the possibility that he may not walk. And that's a struggle. That's a spiritual struggle. That's a mental struggle. It's a physical struggle. And so, and we all know that the violence in the streets is out of control, right? And sometimes people get caught up, right? And things happen. So we have to pray for Sadiq. You know, I went to see him Wednesday, he was in okay spirits, but he needs our dua. He needs our dua. So we ask Allah Ta'ala to repair him and, you know, to restore his sense of self and to keep him motivated to do all of the things that he needs to do, because truly his condition, Allah knows. No one knows, not even the doctors. Allah knows. Right? The doctors can make guesses and statistical, you know, guesses, but only Allah knows. So we pray for Sadiq. We want him to know that we love him and we remember him in our dua. Also, inshallah, we have tickets for the banquet which is on the 23rd of this month. And inshallah, we're hopefully anticipating as a guest speaker Sheikh Muhammad Mendez. He's a young brother that is very dynamic, and inshallah, if he can join us, that will make that night a night you don't want to miss. And also, inshallah, we'll be making Umrah on the 27th. So if you're interested in going with us, there's still time for that. Please contact us at your earliest convenience so we can make all of the necessary details. And if you want for us to pray for you, we're requesting that you get that information to us as soon as possible. And last but not least, we're asking you not to forget to give something for the sake of Allah and sadaqah on this day of Jum'ah. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.